Welcome, friends, to Seekers of the Eternal podcast, episode number 46. I'm your host, Palehorse, and today I'm joined by my friend and renowned visionary artist, Chris Dyer. In this conversation, we dive deeply into Chris's life, philosophy, personal beliefs, and the creation process behind his latest painting, which is a self-portrait that symbolically tells the tale of his journey as an artist and depicts some of his tests and trials and lessons that he's learned along the way. We also talk about how being an artist gives us a license to be crazy, to believe and express what we want to believe and express without worrying about fitting into society's norms. We explore his beliefs around Sasquatches as a reincarnated race from the planet Molduk, and his perspective about the future of this planet as the old systems are crumbling and making way for the new. We have a fun conversation about superheroes, supervillains, and the power of stories and mythological archetypes to help us to become better humans. We share perspectives around ChatGPT and AI-generated art and how these new tools are affecting our lives as professional artists. Chris also has been a relentless world traveler over the years, painting murals and hosting workshops around the world. He provides insights around the anxieties and challenges that arise when traveling to foreign lands, and how he overcomes these fears and heeds the call to adventure to make the world a more colorful and positive place with the artwork that he leaves behind. For this episode, I was able to record on-site at Chris's home studio using his video recording setup. So while this podcast works as audio alone, this episode also features multiple camera angles as well as additional visuals accompanying the artwork, conversations, and stories. So I recommend watching this one on YouTube or Spotify if you can. As always, this podcast is supported by our growing community of friends on Patreon. For a small monthly donation, you will help me to continue providing these offerings, and members will receive behind-the-scenes access to the Palehorse art process, exclusive podcast episodes, community chat rooms, along with live Zoom gatherings and audio downloads of guided meditations and visualizations that I'm creating. You'll also receive 15% off all of your orders of prints and apparel and accessories in the Palehorse online store. See the links below in the description, and I look forward to connecting more deeply with you on Patreon after you listen to this episode. Please remember to like and share this podcast to help us grow and to continue this mission of bringing more bliss, calmness, and creativity into your everyday life. Blessings, friends, and enjoy this podcast with visionary artist Chris Dyer. Welcome, everyone, to the Seekers of the Eternal podcast. I'm your host, Palehorse, and I'm here on location with my friend Chris Dyer. Really happy to be here in Chris Dyer's home studio. And I got to meet Chris about a year ago at Art Basel. Found out that he actually moved down the street from where I live, and we've been getting to connect and become friends over this past year, and it's been a real delight getting to know you. So welcome to the podcast, and I'm really looking forward to diving into all of this world with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris.
Cool. And before we begin, I always like to do a short little relaxation ritual just to relax and release the tension, set our intentions for the podcast. So if you're listening, you can follow along with us if you're not driving. This is just going to be a short and long double inhalation, and then we're going to tense all of the muscles in the body in a low, medium, high tension, and then we're going to exhale, relax, and release and feel. We're going to do that 3 times together and just open with a short invocation. So let's go ahead and take in a normal deep inhalation, breathing in and all the way out. Now, double inhale and tense. Inhale. Low, medium, high tension, and all the muscles vibrate. And exhale. Relax, release, feel the tension dissolve. Again, inhale and tense. Low, medium, high tension, vibrate, and exhale. Relax, release, feel. Last round, inhale and tense. Low, medium, high, just a bit higher, drawing in that cosmic energy, and exhale.
relax, release, feel, just let go of all the tension, all the worries. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Divine Mother, awaken your love in us and teach us to awaken that love in all. Om Shanti Shanti. Peace. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, nice. So cool to start your podcast with some intention and meditation.
Mm.
So yeah, thanks for coming over my spot today. This will be my future studio once I remodel it, whenever I have time and funds for that. Still only been a year out here in St. Pete, so still building, but. Thanks for coming over and including me in your podcast.
Yeah, it's been nice getting to come over. Been to some barbecues and some get together here. We got to get together for New Year's Day, which was really nice. That was a nice thing. I hadn't really had like a group gathering on a New Year's Day, getting together with friends, kind of start the new year off right. That was really cool. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I used to do those in Montreal because in Montreal it's just like middle of snowy winter, and I guess parties on a New Year's night. Once again, you gotta get in an apartment and drink a bunch, and then you wake up, it's the New Year's, and it's like, okay, so what we do now? So then I just started being like, well, come over my apartment and let's just do art and listen to records and enjoy a nice day. So yeah, I'm happy enough people came. Not everybody, because there was some hangover people, but then I guess that also makes it that those who are not aligned, well, not to say that if you get drunk on New Year's Eve, you're not, cool to hang out, but I don't know. Whatever's meant to be is meant to be.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people looking for alternatives these days. So many people, so many of us that used to love to get wasted and party, and now we're like, I'd rather have that energy. I'd rather start off on a good foot for the new year. So yeah, just finding people that align with that. It's nice.
You don't drink, huh?
Not anymore. So it's been a few years now, and I guess maybe about 4 or 5 years now.
Okay, not even one single beer?
I don't drink alcohol anymore. Kombucha is the most alcohol I drink from time to time.
You ever get drunk on kombucha?
I don't think so. Yeah. It might happen though. They're delicious though. You never know.
That sugar will get you. Yeah. Depending on the brand.
Yeah.
I still like to get drunk once in a while. But if I get drunk during the day, that allows me enough time to drink water and calm down by the time I go to sleep at night, waking up without a hangover. The worst part of getting drunk for me is it's a hangover the next day. It's like you go to bed all drunk and you got the spins and you're dehydrated. The next day is just a write-off, and that sucks. So I don't mind getting drunk when I'm with my guests and have a good time, and then all right, now let's go back down and clean it out with some water if possible.
Yeah, right. It's intelligently do it so that you're not wasting the next day. It's whenever as I got older, it's always planning, or if going to a music festival, you're going to be at something like that, always planning how much water and big things that we're going to eat and drink and all that. So I think that stuff's super important.
Though I gotta say, a good hangover has a purpose too, because if I'm hurting, that's one of those hangovers that tells you never again, I'm never drinking again, and then I won't drink for a few months, remembering how hard I had it the day after. So that little bit of pain can motivate me to, not put poisons in my body.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, man, I'm really excited to talk to you. You have had a riveting movie of a life. There's so many facets of you and aspects of you throughout the years. I'm so fascinated with how nimble that you are with making artwork and how it's just come out of you so naturally, seeming from such an early age. And your life is really like a movie. The early childhood, you were in Peruvian street gang. You had moved around a lot when you were younger, and then transitioning to even, from those early ages and partying and breaking things a lot when you were younger, to even graduating from college and getting a degree, and then taking that degree and then transitioning into taking jobs like tree planting, where you found. So I'd love to explore this a little bit and find out really just like those little nuances of things that kind of like took you through those different phases and how you transitioned from one to the other. It seemed pretty rapidly, a lot of rapid movement to getting to where you are now, and maybe not having an environment that supported that growth so much.
Yeah. I don't know if it was like rapid change. Now I can change more rapidly because I just like surrender with like, okay, this is the new thing. Okay, let's go along with it. As a kid, there was more resistance. I guess like the challenges I had when I was younger is that I was taken from Canada to Peru at age 4. So that was absolutely confusing because it was like totally different environment, way of behaving, language, weather, food, etc. So it was almost like I had to learn everything from the jump start at age 4. And I'm like, I was just kind of grasping chill Canadian life. And that took me many years. And then I finally become Peruvian with the million armors and aggressiveness. And that's where I got into the street gang because, to be super tough and maybe, echo some past lives where I was a warrior or whatever. And then all of a sudden at 17, it's like, okay, now you go back to Canada. And then I'm like, oh God, another video game changed. And Canada was totally different. And I was way too aggressive for your Canadian person who was like, that guy's gnarly, don't hang out with him. So I had to like, chill out. And that's when I started smoking weed and doing a lot of psychedelics and calming down the fire. And then eventually, but still the fire came out as, being a drunken bastard and breaking stuff and skateboarding and that whole CMYK was a big influence in the early, late 90s. And we do skate videos and all that. CMYK, also known as Jackass, Big Brother magazine, kind of skateboard crew.
Yeah. I was
but
that too.
It was amazing. And then it went super mainstream, but whatever, that's another story. But you can't live that way. You're just hurting yourself. So then I went tree planting, and then I was submerged in hippie culture and nature, and then I started using psychedelics in a more conscious way, and hitchhiking across Canada, and then into Mexico and Hawaii, and I got the travel bug and learning from different cultures and learning meditation and yoga. And so, now traveling with like this hunger for culture and at least having the intention to be a good person. To be a good person, it's more than just flipping a switch. You got to kind of like learn to, go past your bullshit. I know, going back to college and getting into the environment and being an activist, and that is politics. So then you're fighting people still and trying to be right, and then getting away from that and trying to get the art career going, and that's getting into business or marketing and the different projects that I like to do. So, and then I'd say another episode was getting into plant medicines. I only really, I always did mushrooms, and you learn things from mushrooms, and that's great, but I only really started doing ayahuasca at like age 33, which for a psychedelic artist, Peruvian, is quite late, I guess, especially when it was so in vogue in the festival hippie circles. I purposely did not want to do it because of that, because I was like, I'm not going to do something just because it's in style. Like, I want to do it when I really feel it's something I have to do. And eventually it was. And then I went way more into shamanism. And even though I don't do a lot of ayahuasca anymore, so like I stopped, I'm just not doing it these days. Even though I'm not doing it so much currently, I still feel like I'm on the shamanic path, and I feel more the echoes from past shamanic lives. And so, and then just the shamanic path is also about like killing all versions of yourselves and getting the real you out of all these boxes and hopefully just ending up being whatever the fuck you are to start with before you threw a bunch of culture and human traumas over yourself, including the stuff that you brought from past lives.
Right.
So yeah, and now I'm on my Florida stage. It escaped Canada and its own politics. And lovely here in St. Pete and connecting to a new community of people and being of service and yeah, having fun.
Nice.
Grateful.
Yeah, I'm grateful to have you here. It's been nice having you in my life and learning from you and being inspired by you.
And going toy shopping.
Yeah, going toy shopping. Yeah, Chris has an amazing collection of action figures and toys, and we have to go toy shop. There's a lot of vintage toy hunting opportunities around here in the area. A lot of the shops get together and you can go find all the toys that you didn't have when you were a kid or maybe you had when you were a kid and getting them again. And yeah, it seems like superheroes are a really big thing in your life, something that's very motivating for you. And yeah, seeing yourself as a bit of a superhero with your artworks.
Right. Well, a psychic once told me that the reason why I'm so enthralled with all these toy collections or pop cultural stuff, other than the nostalgia, there's something about me that always wants to be a kid. So for me to like still collect Star Wars and G.I. Joes and Transformers and Thundercats and He-Mans and wrestling characters kind of like keeps me connected to that young, unhurt Chris that just wanted to play and be happy. But also I feel a lot of those cultures, may they be invented by human imagination, perhaps we're also tapped into things that do exist on a different dimension of reality. And perhaps I did exist there myself too. And I'm just kind of like collecting sculptural photographs of my old friends from other dimensions. And I love it. It's really fun to go out there to a toy fair and see these beautiful pieces of art. Like the toy level has gotten better and better. Mm-hmm. And for like, $20, $30, you can get a really accurate sculpture of like this very great design. I don't know. I really like that artwork.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I like your toy collection, even though it's more Michelle, your wife's collection. But it's good that you kick it with us too.
Yeah. I love Masters of the Universe. I'll see one every once in a while and grab one, and yeah, then the vinyl toys I love as well. But yeah, I love going to those shows too, and just getting to see all this. It's so beautiful. And like that idea of collecting these snapshots and photographs of your past lives through, that's a really fascinating idea, as well as this idea that maybe those stories just ingrained in us. That's like, I love Joseph Campbell and the idea of the hero's journey. Yeah, how these cultures around the world basically telling the same story with different heroes.
They're archetypes, good versus evil. But even in these stories, like, let's stick to He-Man. You got Prince Adam, a spoiled little bitch. He's like, I don't want to do my chores. But then by a flick of a sword, he's got all the power of the universe and he's super good. And he goes out and fights for these little villages. That's the bad guy, Skeletor, who is really just a really wounded, insecure being. He's defending them. But even there's episodes where He-Man fails and he throws his sword into the abyss and is like, I don't want to do this anymore. Or Spider-Man, that's so powerful and saves the whole world. But then as Peter Parker, he can always be such a loser at high school, or lose the girl and go through all this emotional turmoil. So it is archetypes where you can reflect on and feel some resonance of like, okay, as Chris Dyer, the artist, I can go out there and paint a mural and maybe make some people happy or teach a workshop and empower kids, but I still got to go back home and find out that a beloved one is on its deathbed and feel sadness for that. or make a mistake and then have to carry that guilt and then try to work it out and release it. Like we know he's perfect. None of these heroes or villains are perfect. Even Darth Vader can go back to being a hero at the last second.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of lessons, and these stories are very inspiring for me. But always seems like good wins in the end. You know, there's different cycles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, good always comes on top, which inspires me to keep on trying my best to be a hero and fight in a peaceful way for the good side, knowing that we will eventually make it back to God, which is love and oneness and unity, and we'll go past all these negative episodes we're currently going through.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot this week actually about what's the difference between a hero and a villain. No, they both are tapping into superpowers within. Now we know from the Star Wars, there's there's one force, but you either join you either join the dark side of it or the light side of it. It's all contained. Or the same thing with like yoga meditation. You can use the same breathing exercises. One person maybe doesn't have virtues, is using those and then using their powers over another person, or another that has those virtues and that deep foundation of that code of who I am as a hero, you know, what I see myself, lines I won't cross. And the difference between those two, both tapping into the same eternal oneness, the force of all creation, but can take you one way or the other if we're not careful. And it's such a fascinating concept. And yeah, just
right. Well, if God is everything, he's also the bad. He's like, he created the duality of good and bad so he could experience this contrast, and he is in the bad also, and he is experiencing the bad so he can know what bad feels, and destruction and negativity. It has a purpose. It has a we should honor its position as opposed to judging it, as much as we want to also not become it or be seduced and go all the way. But it definitely has a role that's worthy, and you know, appreciate it for what it is. There'd be no heroes if there was no bad to fight or overcome. You know, like, so we should like be so grateful to these, you know, World Economic Forum politicians who want to dominate the world with their agendas, because at least we have some like, oh well, you know, who am I without Carl Schwab out there wanting to like turn us all into robots? You know, I got purpose.
There's a hero and a villain in the story, so that we see the villain and we go, okay, I don't want to become like the villain. Like Yogananda would talk about that a lot. It's like, there's villains in the movie of life. I don't like the villain. Why are there villains? You know, and he say he has these conversations with God about why are there villains in the story? Well, there are the villains so that we know not to become the villain. Because you see, the villain gets his throat cut in the story, or the villain abides by the law of the jungle. You know? And always, if you live by the law of the jungle, you die by the law of the jungle. So it's this idea that we can rise above just being these mere apes into humans who have compassion and who are able to not just be selfishly going after our own desires, but have that that compassion for others and those virtues, so that we can stay those true heroes that we want to be in our lives. And love that.
I know that the option is always there to either turn into a villain or turn back to the light. Like once again, Darth Vader, he chose to go to the light at the end of Return of the Jedi. Kylo Ren, he went to the light at the end. And even I think Rey on that final movie, she even went Sith for a second. I'm in the middle of watching it. I think tonight I'm going to watch the final of that final trilogy to remind myself what happened. But yeah, like, you know, like when I gone through some shit as recent as a couple of years ago, and I had a lot of people throw shit at me, I was so tempted to be like, fuck these assholes, you know? All these decades I was like being good and serving right, and then like I make like one mistake and everybody just like, you know, punishes me with such lack of compassion. maybe I should be a bad guy. They want me to be a bad guy because I can be a bad guy. If I let loose my negative side, I can fucking destroy. You know, if I let my fire, like Street Gang Chris comes out and will fucking fuck shit up. But because I'm strong, I keep that contained, I keep that calm, and when you're like, no, we know that you're only gonna hurt yourself at the end of the day, and that just brings more pain for others, and then we're all just destroying each other, and that sucks. Let's, let's contain the negative side and keep on working on the good side, even if you're wounded, even if you're hurt, and show people that like, oh yeah, you keep on punching me on the floor, I'm gonna still keep on showing up and giving you my other cheek till eventually you give up and we all just like can be love. Yeah. Because that's the ultimate goal anyway.
Yeah, and it's so easy to judge someone too for something that happens in any moment, in life, that we're going through this life movie, and one thing leads to another, and then we're hit with something that's shocking, and we can't even believe it happened, and then we react or respond in a way, and then later on, it's like, oh man, why did I react that way? And it just happens sometimes, like driving in a car and getting in an accident. Just for a minute, I wasn't paying attention, and all of a sudden, tragedy, So just things can happen to us. And like with someone like you and what happened with that situation, for those who are familiar with it, it's a difficult thing for the parties involved. So sad for the victims of what happened with that, and then in your case of just hearing that and being so shocked with it and not knowing what to do in that moment with that information. Anything could happen to us at any moment, and to immediately just write somebody off without looking deeper. And you're someone that has, throughout your whole life, has filmed your life. You've been an open book, You're filming it, you're drawing it, you're writing in your journal, you're sharing with it, you're sharing your emotions, your feelings around things and all of that. So I think for anybody that wants to, that maybe has a misunderstanding of who you are, you can so easily dive into your life and look at you throughout all of the years and look at who you are now, and you share on a regular basis. It's really hard to hide if you're truly this person you think you are. It's really hard to hide that.
Right, and that's I guess what saved me, because if I would, like most artists kind of like do their art, but they keep their private life separate. It's like, okay, you can see my painting, but like I'm not really gonna show you where that came from, and my private, like I've always been like, I painted this painting because my girlfriend and me just broke up and I'm heartbroken and I gotta like express it through this, and it's embarrassing because it's like, oh my God, I got rejected, and then sharing that rejection publicly. But through that, people are like, oh my God, I've also gotten my heart broken. I can resonate with you. And I'm not looking for people's pity, like, oh, poor Chris, let me pat your back. It's just, I got this need for expression. It's like, here I am. I just like, there's like a fountain of vibes that have to come out. And now with social media, there's an audience, and those who want to listen can listen. Those who don't want to listen can not listen. But there's enough people who are interested, and I tell my story. And I guess my purpose has a nice circular thing. But as you were saying, because I've always been so authentic in my ups and my lows, when perhaps I was stuck in a hard situation and I was honest about it, my true fans knew like, oh no, Chris is just being honest right now, he's not bullshitting. While those who didn't know may be like, oh, I can judge this white male and I can tell you exactly if this is true or not, and let those people be too, like we're all, sometimes you can be in a situation which no matter how much how you respond, somebody will judge you from some angle. I was seeing how Russell Brand got accused or judged or shown to be this or that recently. But once again, because he wrote a whole book about it and was honest about like, oh shit, I was a terrible person, and then I went to AA and I tried my best to fix it. By the time they bring up this dirt, it's like, I already told you that I was doing these kinds of things, and I've always been honest, and I'm already past that stage. So if you want to judge that past stage, cool, go ahead, or make lies up or whatever. And that's why I think he took like a week off and then came back. And, I wish I would have seen him go through that before my cancellation episode, because it'd be like, oh, you don't have to like act according to what other people say. Like if they say like, oh, you're a bad person, so you're canceled, and then you're like, oh, I am? Okay, I guess I just won't be an artist anymore because you think I'm bad, so I'm going along with what you're saying? Or actually, no, I know who I am. I don't think that's fair, or, I'm open to a conversation, and I'm going to keep on doing my thing to those who know me. And once again, if you want to have a conversation and we can discuss, and then you can teach me lessons, I'm open to it. And we can all learn together and, all together walk ourselves back home to God. Because who can be canceled as a human and be saying like, okay, you made a mistake and now you don't deserve a chance to learn and redeem yourself and become good. No, you're done. Now just, go out and die and you're worthless. Like that's a terrible approach that society has taken. And I would say there's even some people who are worthy of quote unquote canceling if that's what it takes to stop them from repeated hurting of women and
they're
people.
on that path. And
right, they're on that path. It's like, well, then don't work with that person till he is, till they fix himself or herself. But these days it's just like anybody does or says anything wrong or even not even do anything, they just know somebody who does it. So in relation, it's just like, okay, it's too much. And people are abusing that cancellation power or that, they put themselves in that victim role to make themselves into a hero without actually doing something good about it.
Right.
But those are just a bunch of opinions that are flying at you. So.
Yeah. And I think what we can do as observers, as seeing someone who makes a mistake and is doing everything that they can do to show that they're doing their best to come back from that. I think we can learn a lot by watching an example like that. Or maybe it's a little cautionary tale for someone to say, oh, maybe I should think about these kind of things. How would I respond if that would happen to me? Because your story, like I could imagine, like I bring friends to ayahuasca ceremonies. I with healers that I trust and love, and if something like that happened to me, it would be so shocking. So hearing your story kind of helps prepare me for if in the future something like that happened in my situation, where I would be now more ready and like, okay, I've seen what happens here, really, really to make that decision in the moment. So I think when you see things like that, think about how you could learn yourself rather than just immediately, throwing.
Or hopefully you would be granted like a couple weeks to have a couple conversations with people who know better about those topics. When it comes to, okay, so for those that were asking, like, what are they talking about? Like, in a nutshell, I used to do retreats in Peru with a shaman, and months after my retreat, a shaman misbehaved online with a student. That's pretty much it. But because they met at my retreat, I was brought into the forefront of the thing, and it was all about me. And I was in the middle of plant medicine, of a 3-week plant medicine process at the time. And I was like, please don't bring this up to light. Give me a week. Let me finish my own process, and that, then was shared in a weird way that made it look like I was trying to cover up something that happened in my retreat. Anyways, lots of little details and I don't even really like to think about this whole thing. I'm kind of like over it. But yeah, what to do when a shaman misbehaves? Is there like a shamanic council that you can be like, hey, shaman with license so-and-so has done an infringement. How do we make sure that we can heal them and bring them back into the light so they can continue being of service? as opposed to just throwing them in the garbage and now the rest of their life is pointless, especially when they have shamanic talents and healing to serve. Like no one's 100% bad, you know. You can be like, I guess that's like was my whole question. Is a person good or bad because they do like bad things, but in the rest of their life to do a bunch of good things? Does that disqualify or balance it?
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
I think in that case, it's so egregious to us because we trust, you know, when you go into a ceremony like that, you put your full trust into this person whose whole life is dedicated to healing, and when they betray that trust, it's just like so hard for anybody to even think about that person even as a human being anymore. It's like, oh, that is the devil, you know.
You can see a lot of anger, and especially in a time where we want to bring the woman back to a balanced position and at least not to a hurt position. No one should take advantage of women at any level, even if online, even if months later. Like, you know, humans are still will always be humaning. But so my question was, what's a compassionate way where we can teach the man to act ethically without destroying him, his family, his community, his land, all the people are getting healed. Like, you know, how many people have to be hurt for that one person to learn their lesson? Like, what's the balance way? So, I don't really have like the answer, and I don't know if I even succeeded at doing it correctly. I just disassociated myself with them entirely, and I haven't spoken to them in years, and I pray that he learned his lessons through going through that activity. And my main objective is to just try to be a good person myself. And some days I do good, some days I fail. But hopefully keep on trying.
And I think we can learn lessons too from that shaman who he didn't have that virtue, that foundation. He had the power. And what we recognize is like with meditation, with the skills that we create as become magicians, as artists, we develop our powers. That creates a lot of magnetism, people attracted to us, and we have to have that strong foundation, a code for ourselves of lines we will not cross, you know. As you know, I see ourselves as artists, as healers. The work that I do is guiding people in meditations. I make sure that I'm stoking that fire every day of who I am, the hero that I want to be in my life, and lines that I will not cross. And I think it's really all about that, is knowing the power that we're wielding and daily stoking that fire that I am going towards this lighthouse. And the darkness is so tempting to, in the same way, you know, and I agree with you, it can be very hard, probably even for people to hear, of thinking about even forgiving somebody like that. But like in the same thing you said, it's like that every super villain has an origin story, and if that villain has that dark story and there's nobody there to help bring him back into the light, maybe you get even darker and darker and darker and become more of a menace. So we're actually talking about this on a plane of balance and wanting to do the most good. Obviously, in the immediate moment, the tension should go towards the victim, helping, understanding, and then towards, now what do we do to make sure that this doesn't happen again and this gets better? And that actually comes from forgiveness and allowing people to recover from that. So we can,
and that's something that humanity is still learning at this point. So a couple reflections on what you brought is we bring it back to the Force, Darth Vader being seduced by the dark side. And I always wonder, like, how is there such a thing as a dark shaman? If you're working with ayahuasca, that fucking exposes you as you are, and you're like, oh shit, I can't hide my bullshit, and I'm looking at my bullshit, and ayahuasca like goes at you like a kind, you know, compassionate yet hard grandmother, and it's like, we gotta clean this thing out. But somehow you got so comfortable in that space, it's like, okay, I can see I got the thing, but not only that, now I got the power, and I'm gonna use that power to get what I want. And I can see now these women like me, I'm just gonna go for it. And so they get seduced by the dark side, or maybe an entity that came back through the back door. I don't know. I believe in interdimensional dark entities that can influence us and get stuck in different sections or chakras. Yeah, so you can be the. I'm always shocked that so many positive spiritual, not only shamans but yoga teachers and leaders and priests end up doing bad things.
Yeah.
They get seduced by the dark side, but they are supposed to be the Jedi's.
Yeah, I share the same opinion. Like when I first started doing medicine and ayahuasca, like I just immediately would trust a person who's been doing this for years and is trained in it. You would think there's no way they have any darkness or any even, master of the senses, master of this thing. But when I started hearing stories about that, I was so shocked that was even a possibility. So it wakes us up to the fact that, the light side of the force and the dark side of the force are very real, and the seduction creeps in. And we just need to be really careful with all of these things. And with the medicines too, like every time I sit with medicine and I'm there with friends and I bring friends there for healing and I see the goodness of it, I'm like, this is so right and good and beautiful and necessary, and it's healing our country and the world.
Yeah.
And, so it's hard to even fathom somebody doing that.
Yeah. And that's how I felt. Like I did probably at least 35 ayahuasca ceremonies with him in the jungle with a bunch of students, and they were fucking beautiful. Like where you ended the session and you're sitting around, it's like, man, that was such a beautiful prayer. We sent out such beautiful, we did such good work. You see students come out like so healed, being like, oh my God, like I talked to my grandmother and I forgave her, and now I know what I want to do with my life. Like such great things that I was like so happy. So when that happened, it was like a balloon of love and joy being popped in a second. And I was like, what? It's just a popped balloon? Like what happened? How did my hero turn into a Sith Lord and I didn't even see it? And here I'm like, being destroyed along with it. It was like the worst time of my life on so many levels. But other than the whole public humiliation and cancellation and people being mean to me, it was like my hero deceived me, and my healer let me down. And if my hero let me down, I got no way to look up to, and everything loses meaning. And I was like really distraught about it. It's as if all of a sudden you find out that Yogananda, did mean things to kids. You'd be like, oh no, like, it'd be like, your balloon will get popped. So at the end of the day, we just gotta like be the best us possible, not be seduced by, if anything, learn that by seeing how horrible it is when they lose their balance, not to let it happen to us. And try our best at least to not do any further mistakes if you've done any.
Yeah, and really like all of the love and compassion to the victims of that story. And we really, really feel for that, like that kind of betrayal and the embarrassment and all of that. I can't even imagine how terrible that was to go through. And so all of the love and support and compassion to the victims of that. And for you, as this idea, we talked about death and rebirth, so you also went through this death of this, like you were this person so spontaneous, traveling the world, putting on healing workshops and painting with people and traveling and going to all these beautiful places and really challenging, difficult places, even to the Middle East and Palestine and Israel, and such a free spirit and fearless and just doing it, really doing it with your heart. And, it seemed like the early childhood where you had the more street gang background maybe made you adventurous and not afraid to be in certain places like that. And,
Well, I wouldn't say I'm fearless. I actually carry enough fear, but I try to allow myself to go on with the fear. Or I try not to let the fear take over, where I would say, like, you get invited to a country that might be like scary because you don't know, like, oh, I'm going to India. Sounds lovely, but also sounds like, oh my God, what, I'm going to be like walking on the streets with like, like so many people around you, and what's going to go happen? Or as you say, you go to Palestine and like, oh, it sounds cool, but also you go there and it's like, what the hell? How come that sarcophagus is going through town? And what was that gunshot? And I don't understand the language. And, what do people think of me here, being a white, tattooed, dreadlock dude? And I just have to kind of like try to ground and be like, okay, I feel fear or anxiety, I think is more accurate. Like, I don't fear the people, but it's an anxiety of like the unknown or situations that don't make me feel comfortable. I got traumas myself, and I also got my demons that like bug me, and I have to just like observe and be like, okay, cool, thank you. But still go on, still show up, still be like, well, I'm still gonna show up and paint my mural. And if I feel fear while I'm doing it, c'est la vie. I'm still gonna show up and do it. And I know everything will be fine, because every time I go and do these things, everything's fine. And life keeps on teaching me, like, regardless of your anxiety and your fear, you will still be protected, and you will be fine, and you are blessed, and you are good, and your service is appreciated despite the discomfort you put yourself through those things. I wish I had the fearlessness I had when I was 17 years old in a street gang. Dude, I could not go to do that these days by far. Oh my God, I'm such a softie now. Like, I've dropped all my armors and my tough guy disguises. Now I'm like very open-hearted, which makes you super vulnerable. And that can make you a little bit anxious sometimes. Like, oh my God, like now I'm throwing myself in situations with no disguise, and can I handle the knives and attacks of a world that usually attacks what they don't understand, or even those who are open-hearted. It's like, what, an open-hearted person? Let's attack him because I'm not open-hearted and I want to feel better at myself. But I can't live in boxes. I can't live in disguises. I can't live unauthentically. I gotta just be me and love myself for me, whatever that is. And through getting destroyed in different occasions, it just lets me let go of what's not me and may it not be fun. I'm grateful for those experiences, because it hurts to cut the skin and to, let the toxins go. But then you just get closer to your true self, which is God, which is love, and which is the world that is coming. The world of love and high frequency consciousness is coming little by little, and it will be coming even stronger soon, my personal belief. And for me to already be tapping into that will make it that my circuitry won't short circuit and explode, and I'll be in massive pain, because I've learned to just surrender through the electricity of it all. And hopefully that also puts me through the position work and help others who might have not done their purging work and might have to go through it at that point. And you're gonna have to we're gonna have to hold space for a lot of people that very rapidly will have to drop all that bullshit because the armor got destroyed or liquidated. I don't know how
to work on it is now, right?
Yeah. Might as well work at it now, so when the sun shoots out mad consciousness, and I don't know if you guys are understanding any of the things I'm saying. I believe that the frequency of the planet Earth will get higher and higher in the next few years, and we're going to transform into a more spiritual world, and that's going to be very difficult for some, and maybe more enjoyable for others. Like, I can see you're gonna just be in bliss. You're gonna be like, hell yeah, baby, I have prepared this vessel for this rainbow love. Let's go. Bliss nonstop. On tap.
Yeah. Just being ready for it. And I've been warming up to this idea too, because Yogananda has been talking about this. since the early days that,
Mm-hmm.
that these times that we're in, we're headed towards a big shift, and we're in this era that is changing from the area of the material age. And you see now, very obvious, we're in the energy age. We see the energy in our electronics. We know about the energies within the body. We start to learn how to work with the energies through meditation and breath work and through medicines and all of this. And that we are moving into this energy age, that things become, because we know also in this age that with our science, at the electron microscope, you can zoom in, and you can actually prove that this is a virtual reality universe, that there really is no matter there, that it's all just empty space the closer and closer you zoom in. So this isn't even a hypothetical idea, that we're actually right now in a metaphysical space within our minds, and our brains are perceiving this as a solid material, that you're another person separate from me, and we're just the filter of our mind is giving us all of these ideas. But the more and more that we can learn to warm up to these ideas, as it becomes more and more difficult to know things like facts. Like with the internet, we can deep fake anything now. Like pretty soon I'll be able to write a prompt of Chris Dyer doing anything that I wanted to be doing with some prompts, and there'll be a video and a
I want to
music
do a
score.
podcast interview with Chris, but Chris doesn't even have to be here. And I want you to replicate his garage and put a bunch of art around. And
it's already almost impossible to know what's real, what's fake, and it's just going to get more and more and more like that. And with the technology becoming smaller, and with all of this virtual reality and augmented reality, we're moving into really a metaphysical space. So that that material world is crumbling. So those that are hanging on to that, it's going to be very hard.
Yeah.
And it's going to be scary for us, but we're going to need to everyday just the same thing like you were talking about, having that courage, like, okay, I know it's going to be okay. And I love that idea of like this Buddhist idea of moral courage. And like when you were traveling and painting, you knew that you were going there to do a good thing. You knew that you were going there to bring some light and some color into a space. And we know that you put some light, you put some art and some beautiful colors into a place that was just white walls, and all of a sudden now, place that you would walk by every day and feel dull, it's now this portal into like another reality. Or kids seeing that and thinking, I want to learn how to paint, I want to start painting. Maybe they start sketching. So it's like the things that would be impossible for others will become possible for you because of what you're doing, the good thing that you're doing, following your path. And if you would have come in with the hubris of a young street gang kid, you probably would have got into fights and get beat up and got all this kind of things if you went in there with that attitude. But enter again. I like the idea of the never-ending story with those two threshold guardians, when Trey was up at the top and watching the knight, the proud knight, wanting to go through that threshold, like say, go to Palestine as an artist with hubris, and I'm the man, and I've got all this whatever clout and popularity, I can go there and do whatever I want. Immediately struck down with lasers. But the hero who's going in with virtue and competence and courage isn't destroyed, even though narrowly destroyed.
I hope everybody is okay.
Just like, with that sound, like, bam, it could totally be destroyed at any moment. So I think, like what you're doing, it's like the hero always feels that hesitation going into the hero's journey, but being able to push through that and then actually just do it because you know that this is what you're meant to do, and it becomes like a really good thing all around. So
I think I love experience. I feel like a scary or even negative experience is better than no experience at all. Like you could just stay home and do some boring computer job and pay your bills and then die, and you didn't do anything with your life, and it'd be safe. It'd be not scary, but why did you even come to live? Let's go out there and burn our fingers here and there, and learn to not burn your fingers in the future. I do hope that I get to a point in life where I can do whatever I want without having the fear, because I got into a confident level where it's like, no, there's nothing to fear. Everything is good. Everything is God. I do hope that with the higher consciousness, that love and God and the understanding of oneness will work for me in a way where like there'll be less separation and even reasons for me to have fear. Why should I fear somebody else or the judgment of someone else? Like, if I can love myself 100%, how I am, even if somebody else says that I'm not good enough, why do I have to listen to them if I'm okay with myself? You know, that's what I've learned at the end of the day is, if I can love myself 100%, then nothing else matters. You know, I don't have to like compare myself to others. I don't have to be like angry or jealous or mean to anyone else, because I'm comfortable with myself. I'm good. And then you got all this love to share and to be a service of others, because you also know that others are like you and they're great, and you want to help them also get to that place where they love themselves 100%. And if we all just live in that way where we love ourselves so much and then we can love others, this world would be amazing. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going towards that, or you know, it seems impossible almost because we're almost at the opposite of it. But yeah, it has to almost like get to an extreme for the thing to, you know, for the slingshot, you know, it's got to be stretched really to the opposite for it to be shot out to the other end.
Yeah. It's so similar to a psychedelic experience. You have to go through that really, really hard breakup, shake up time. Uh-huh. And then on the other side of it is the letting go, the bliss, the love, all of that comes through it. And yeah, I like what you said there. It's like you could become a channel for love if you continue seeing yourself as worthy of love and feeling that love of the universe and doing that inner work. Then people can feel that vibration without even saying anything. You can emanate that, and I feel that from you. So and obviously, you know, it comes through in a lot of the work. You know, this new painting that you just finished, I'd love to talk about this a little bit. So this one is just brand new, fresh piece. It has a lot of new tricks and style that you that is new to this painting that I haven't seen from you before. Mm-hmm. I love seeing the great thing that what I love about your work. You're so prolific. Art is just always coming out of you in all different kind of things. You're always sketching. You're always painting. You're always making work. You're doing it live. You seemingly could just show up to a wall and start going and have a short time limit and be able to pull it off. But then at the same time, you can also sit with a painting for months and really put in that meticulous work. So you have those two sides of you, which is really fascinating for me, and I want to pull from you a little bit for that spontaneity part, because I'm such a planner. I'm so calculated that there's no way I could just show up and start working on something. Uh-huh. So I love that you have those aspects. I'd love to have that superpower of being able to be a little more spontaneous. Mm-hmm. and learning to be able to, in the moment, to create, rather than, for me, I do a lot of research, a lot of study. I look at images, I listen to stories, a lot of that, and then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to make a piece. I feel like, and I also just want to be in the presence of the subject matter for a long period of time. But I love that about your work, that you have both of those superpowers, the ability to sit for long periods of time. Tell me about the process of this painting, which is a little bit different than you normally work.
Yeah, so I'm working on my second art book, a coffee table art book with a publisher. It's coming out this spring. My last book came out 2011, and as I'm finishing the second book, I wanted to do like a final piece that was like a banger, to be like, and this is the conclusion, this is the end. And I kept on thinking like, okay, what would that last piece be? And my whole book is like paintings reflecting the process of where I'm at in my different episodes and changes. My art is very much like how I'm feeling, or self-portraits of different kinds, even though like that's a self-portrait too. And it looks nothing like me, but it's an alien aspect of me, and nobody would even know it's a self-portrait. So for that last piece, it's like, I actually don't do a lot of like classical realism self-portraits because I don't, it's like, who cares what I look like, you know? Like, this is, like, I try to identify with my vessels, like, okay, this is what's carrying my soul right now, but this ain't me. This is just, you know, it's my vehicle. So painting is not that important, but I guess like, okay, but for this final piece, perhaps I will show what's inside me by showing the different versions of my vehicle, including this side that was like, you know, fat, dreadlock, married Chris. I had dreadlocks for 21 years, and a lot of people knew me as that, you know, goofy dreadlock traveler, skater, street artist. And, you know, then after that 40th ayahuasca ceremony, I shaved my head, and that was the time where I got canceled, and some people might have been like, oh my God, dreadlock Chris is now bald and he looks like an evil villain, and you know, like the look went just like I shaved my head, and that whole situation happened a week after, and it all happened a week after this 40th ayahuasca ceremony where I was in the gates of heaven being like, God, please liberate me from giving a shit about this identity of being Chris Dyer. Fuck that shit. I want to just be whatever the fuck I want to be. So that was a stage I had to go through that lasted only a year. That was more like me living in Denver. And now the middle version is like, I guess, like the current one, or, you know, like a hairdo or me using sandals or shorts doesn't mean like I'm different. It's the vibration that I have. And hopefully this version of Chris is a Chris that can love itself. It's like, you know what? I love myself. I am that I am. And let's expand from that. Let's bring on the rainbow body, spiritual, higher version of Chris to be of service to humanity, which came from different versions. Like every step was part of building the code to a Chris that's more holistic, because I've gone through different episodes and chapters, and I have been good and bad at different points and learned from it. Like I'd say when I was in the street gang throwing rocks at my enemy gangs, I was doing the work of evil. Yet I was still going to church looking for God. And then around, I'm putting different past life incarnations and guides that I resonate with, including my alien self on the top. As for techniques, I went more with realism. Like I learned realism in college. I went to different colleges in the 90s and early 2000s. So I know how to paint realistically. It just doesn't really call me that much because like so many people do it and it's a little bit played out. And yes, it's a people pleaser trick. You paint something realistic, people are like, whoa, it looks real, wow. It's like, yeah, cool, but like, you know, what do I say with that? Unless if I have to say something with that. Like I'll use it a style or a technique depending if I have to say something with it. So it's not like I was like, okay, my final piece of my book has to be a realism piece. It's more like, in order to say what I want to say, I need to go more realistic. Because if I do it super graphic, well, graphic is just only one aspect of me. And I threw it on the t-shirt as in like, yeah, and still the Chris Dyer graphic style is in the mix, but it's just a graphic on a t-shirt. It's not really me. It's just one of my many masks or expressions and whatever. And yeah, I don't know. Like Guadalupe is more like representation of like not just the Mother Mary Christianity mother, but also ayahuasca. I put some Shipibo pattern, and I put a Captain American A on her third eye. You know, representing ayahuasca, and you know, made her green, and you know, made her redhead. My mom's a redhead, so it's almost like a shout out to my mom, and Bigfoot's like shout out to my dad. I feel resonance with the Bigfoot race, which I do believe exists in this planet. They're just elusive because they're reincarnation of spirits from the planet Molduk, which is a planet that used to exist on the solar system, but got destroyed hundreds of thousands of years ago. and then they incarnated here in that body to work out some karma. And they're smart enough to stay out of the way of humans. And then Jesus is more like a Krishna. I believe Krishna and Christ are similar or the same soul in different lifetimes. So I put like an Om and a free and a different free in the top, so a triple free. I was born the third of the third, so I got a connection to threes and trinities. But also Jesus was the age of Pisces. He brought in the age of Pisces. Now we're moving to the age of Aquarius, and he was the fisherman of men. And so I just threw in the fish in there too. And and so on. Frida Kahlo, I feel a big connection with her. I've been told by different psychics that I'm a incarnation of her, that she was a past life of mine, and I'm not saying this in a super egotistic like, ooh, I'm Frida Kahlo, like I don't remember that, and we're totally different beings or avatars. And also I want to say that people who were one soul at one point can now incarnate into different souls in the future or even in the past, because souls, which is God's spirit consciousness, doesn't have the rules and parameters of time, and even like, oh, only one soul into one body. It's like, hey, if Jesus wants to incarnate into every single human being of planet Earth at this time, it can do that. Yeah. So we can all be like incarnations of Jesus.
I have a feeling that's true too. Like it's almost like these are all of the DVDs that are available.
Yeah.
And you can rent which one at any time. You want to watch the world through Frida Kahlo? Oh, I'd like to see the world through that.
Right.
Take that. Oh, next I'll be Chris Dyer. Next I'll be this. Yeah. I think that that's the way it goes, and I really think that our lives even are like just destined to go how it's going to go, and we just sign up, and the idea is that we're just supposed to watch that movie and enjoy it and not talk through it the whole time. But I love this painting, and I always love to see when an artist takes, it's a great one for the end of the book and where you're at now, of being able to take all of the things that you've learned over the years, and the tricks and abilities and the skills and the graphics and the color and everything, and bring it into one cohesive piece, because that's a very difficult thing to do. And I think it takes a lot of years as an artist to be able to develop that and then to find a natural way. And you maybe didn't even plan all of that out, but it's like, it just now it's like, okay, yeah, I've got the graphic pieces, I've got these pieces, which you can see kind of like reminiscent in other places, and all of it coming together into one. I think that's really when an artist really finds their thing. I mean, obviously you've been doing it for a long time, but I think that's a big milestone when you can take all of that, put it into one thing. So
well, I've been learning too, and I get really inspired by all the amazing artists that I hang out with, including yourself. Like I don't know if your viewers know, but I have this podcast of my own, which is more art centered or focused. So I'm traveling all over the States, hanging out with these amazing artists and getting into their studios, and my mind is blown like every single week, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so great. And then I'm like, okay, like I want to be as great as them, but in my own way. So then when I get back to my studio, it's like, okay, I'm buying myself some months to just do studio work. I'm gonna say no to all these jobs, fuck it, I'll pay my rent ahead of time, and let's just paint for yourself. Like, I don't want to sell this. I'm not making this for money. I'm making this to like express myself, but you have to afford the time. But anyways, I get really inspired, and you see other people doing really detailed references before jumping on canvas. It's like, oh yeah, I could do the whole piece as a Photoshop composite with properly done references, photographs, and all that great technology we got today, and already have the image ready before you even start the painting. And then another thing I did different for this one is I gessoed the canvas black as opposed to white, so that everything was a little bit more muted, because when it's white, like everything's just brighter. This made the tones a little bit darker. And then also, I used a projector for the first time. I'd never used a projector. I usually just like eyed it or used tracing paper to put things in position. With this, I just had a projector, projected it on the canvas one night, and then in one day, the whole drawing is on the canvas. That saved me like at least a week or two of getting this idea onto the canvas, especially exactly where you want it without any mistakes. So yeah, you just keep on learning, you see how other people do it, and then you do it in your own way. As long as you're not biting their style, you're doing it in your own style, you can pick up things all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in the camp of like, whatever it takes to make the best artwork possible and to get this idea into the physical universe. If there's tools to help us do that in ways that make it faster and more successful, like, yeah, let's use them. So it's really fun to look at this piece as well as the pieces in your house. I also got to the first week that I got to meet you. You were having an exhibition in Miami for Art Basel. So I got to see an enormous collection of the pieces that you had brought over with you to fill that gallery at Moksha in Miami. So seeing Chris's work in person is such a different experience too than seeing it online. It's so fun to stand in front of it and really take it in. You can zoom in with your eyeballs, just keep going and exploring all of the shapes and colors in it. It's really a great experience to see your work in person. I was blown away by seeing it. I had seen your work online for a bunch of years, but that was my first experience with it in person. And I gotta say, I've been going to Basel for many years. That was one of my favorite art openings that I've been there, especially combined with the music, Illuminati Congo, big fan of, as well as the Aztec dancers that were there. That whole combination was just so juicy.
Yeah, right? Some urban conscious hip hop, but then some shamanic tribal stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great. It all just fell in place so perfectly. And I was really grateful to hold space for that.
Yeah.
Share my art, Moksha family.
Yeah, it's so cool to see how the interests in life. For me, in making art, I like making art because it allows me to spend time with concepts and ideas and things that I love that I want to continue exploring. So getting to sit for a month with a painting or a drawing of something, it really gives you time to have with something you've been thinking about for a while. I think that's why it's so cool with artists. You hear a podcast or you hear about an ancient civilization, or you go travel to another country and you see something and it's like, I want to go home and make a painting so I can keep thinking about this, keep exploring it. You know, the idea of being able to paint a Sasquatch and then getting to listening to podcasts about it, learning about it, like really diving deep into that. And it's just like, you don't know what's possible on this planet. Anything is possible. There's so much of the forest that hasn't been explored. You can't say one way or another that Bigfoot doesn't exist. Like, how would you know? That's hubris to even say,
Yeah.
So I love that as artists. Like, we have this just curiosity. So the art, we can dive in so deeply. I see that in your work.
I love that artists have this license to be crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I can be here on your podcast and talk about, like, the rainbow consciousness that will take over humanity and the belief that Bigfoot exists and that we're reincarnations of Jesus and all this stuff that most people would be like, whoa, how much weed did that guy smoke? And I'm like, well, I don't care. That's my personal belief, and I'm allowed to believe it, as anyone is allowed to believe anything. But in my expression, I bring out my beliefs, and I'm not alone. A lot of people vibe with it. It's like, oh, actually, I believe in it too, but I'm not allowed to say it because we're all supposed to just believe in these little things and not get out of the boxes. Like aliens, oh, they don't exist. Huh? It's like, okay, are we gonna just let go of what we're supposed to believe or not, or can we just like believe in whatever resonates with us and then open up our periphery and possibilities? Because if we all just believed in aliens and we got like comfortable with them, then they'd show up and be like, okay, you guys are chill now? Okay, here we are. Let's do this. Here's some free energy. these politicians are a bunch of corrupt people who are dominating you. Let's get rid of them, and now let's bring harmony to this poor planet that's struggle enough.
Well said. I agree with all that. I love being an artist for that reason. It's really a license to be able to go into as deep as you want into the interests that you have in life. And for people listening to this, it's like, yeah, go take those risks, do those things in life, get out of your comfort zone, create this ability to have content in your life that you can draw from. You know, if you never left your house, you never got over those fears and went out and went into a strange new world, met strange new people, what do you have to draw from? So I think you have to do that first. And then once you gather that, it becomes more about that inner journey too. It's like traveling, of course, we love to continue traveling, and food and things and all of that are beautiful, but now it's this wealth of a world that we can travel inwardly and pull out this, because we went on those heroes' journeys and we got the gold, we got the love, and now we can go inwardly and continue pulling it out of ourselves, because we can connect with the super conscious realms, an infinite resource.
Well, you can,
you know. Or I think that's, as artists, is what we're doing. You know,
Yeah.
you're tapping in. Where is this coming from? Where are these characters coming from?
Yeah.
You're tapping into something that's not in your brain necessarily, and it's wanting to come through in this physical world through you. So I think that seems to be what's happening.
I guess so. I guess I'm also I'm getting more connected to the spiritual side, or at least I'm being more aware of it. Like, I used to travel a lot, and not that I don't want to travel anymore, but like the parameters of my life haven't allowed for me to travel, from the COVID years, to get stuck in Peru, to then being unvaccinated and not being allowed to go to different countries or leave this country. And now I'm trying to live in this country, and I don't got my green card, so I can't leave it. So I keep on getting invited to other countries, but I can't leave, and I'm just staying put and I'm being patient. But I'm also trying to be like finding the satisfaction of just being home and doing my work, and not having to always like be moving around in this like endless search for novelty. And just find the novelty of every single day, waking up and breathing and appreciating the now. That's always new and beautiful if we just stop to appreciate it. And that doesn't mean I wouldn't mind like going to Turkey, but that will come if it's meant to be in some future. And if not, I hope I can find my paradise just sitting here talking to you, or anything else that I'm doing. Because the world keeps on changing, and we'll see what will happen, and with modern society, and what has to change in order for humanity to like pop out of the stage that we're currently in. What do you think is going to happen? Is Hanuma going to show up and start ripping mountains and tell people like, all right, people, this is how it goes?
I feel like it's just a crumbling of the old ways and the old systems and the old ways of doing things and the old sort of greedy culture that we've been in, and it's moving more and more into a space where there's more abundance for all of us. And we're gonna have to obviously go through shakeups, and there's it may happen through wars, it may happen through meteor hitting the earth or solar flares. Who knows how it might happen? But I do believe that we're on the verge of a big change here worldwide. And we're in America, so oftentimes we see these things happening on the other side of the world, and you've traveled around and seen how it is in other places, and they're already kind of in a post-apocalyptic, what for us would it be like a post-apocalyptic, but I don't think we need to think of it in that way, where it's going to be such an awful time. We are, I believe, in an ascending age. So it's going to go through some really tough times that we're in now, but it will lead to higher and higher consciousness across the board as we go into the ages and move towards a golden age.
I think it's going to be like an X, where society as we know it, with its materialism and comforts, might kind of like go down, but at the same time consciousness will go up where we won't even care about these material comforts anymore because we're already like tapping into like the bliss of just existence. And maybe like, you know, having all those things are just not necessary anymore. If anything, the comforts of society made us disconnect from our natural connection to the bliss of just existing on a beautiful planet, you know, of nature.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a nice place we're in.
Yeah.
The physical realm.
Yeah, and it can be scary. I know, like, you know, if you're here, it took me a long time to warm up to this idea. When I first started hearing Yogananda's predictions back in the day,
What does
it was
he say exactly?
Wow. It's just the predictions of the age that we're in, the shakeup of moving from that age into the new age. That there's going to be wars. There's going to be all of this just tragedy happening. That is, you know, economic the collapse and all of those kind of things. Just like what you're talking about. And if we're hanging on to those old things, if we can't see our lives without having all of the exotic foods that we like and all of the comforts that we love and being able to travel, if we can't let go of those things, it's going to be really hard for you. But if now we can start just warming up to like, oh, if I didn't have that, I would be okay. I would be okay. And just letting go of those things more and more until when it happens, we just make a pact. And I think this is a good thing too, talk about like virtues, like now in this moment while the birds are still chirping and we have our lights on and we have the comforts, to make a code for yourself that I'm going to let this make me a better person. I'm going to do things to help others. I'm not going to get greedy and afraid and, you know, feel like I need to steal things or do things maliciously or buy a bunch of guns or, you know, think about just making a fortress or things like that. Those things I think come out of an idea of fear, but thinking about community and thinking about ways that, you know, in people that are carrying on Yogananda's work, this has been happening since 1969. Spiritual communities all over the world that are incredible blueprints for how people are. They're living as if the world has ended already. Yeah. And they've created these sustainable places.
Self-sufficient.
So they're showing, so there are beautiful examples. I say like the TV and HBO and all, they like to show you all the really dark spiritual communities, but there is really, really pure, beautiful communities out there that are people that are striving towards self-realization, period. Yeah. And doing it for real, and it's lovely to be in the presence of people like that.
Nice. Yeah, I used to be part of a meditation group in my early 20s, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
Are we at the end of the Kali Yuga? Do you know that? Or did we just like pass it a couple days or weeks ago?
So the popular belief around that in India that's been the standard that people have held is that we are currently in the Kali Yuga and that it has much longer time to go. Sri Yukteswar, who's on this path of Kriya Yoga, my lineage of gurus, he wrote a book that's called The Holy Science, where he's an awakened master. People that know Sri Yukteswar, he's widely believed as a fully awakened master who wrote this book. And he said that the Kali Yuga, he showed with the solar system and with astrology that the timeline actually is a lot different than the currently believed timeline that it was at. And he said that those timelines were actually written in the Kali Yuga by non-awakened beings who had it wrong. And he came to correct that. So he puts us at 1700 AD, end of Kali Yuga. 1700 on. So there's a transition period from the end of Kali Yuga. So you go through this transition period, and so then we're now in Dwapara Yuga energy age proper. We've gone through that phase. We're now in the energy age fully, and we see it through. And so there's actually people that took his work and then also showed a timeline based on the inventions, the discoveries of electricity, the electron microscope,
all of and the transitions of old empires collapsing and new ones starting, and also the obvious interest in spiritual things around the world. Like, we have a podcast now, we're recording this with electricity, putting it out into the ether. There's, he calls it time and space annihilators, radio and TV, and now we have internet and all movies and all of these things. So he says that we're 323 years into the energy age, Dwapara Yuga already.
Okay.
But that still is an age, he says that you're a very brave soul to come here during this time, because that is a time where it has everything.
Yeah. I got some videos recently that is like, today the Kali Yuga ends and there's a time of like 5 hours that's like this middle point before the next age. I don't know if it was all like BS or what, but it's like, it's a really special moment of nothingness, and I don't know. Every day I'll almost get like a video of like, today's a very special day, it only happens every 3,000 years.
Yeah, I mean, I like those kind of things because it makes you set intentions and have purpose for your day and really do that. So I think those things are good, but I think it will probably happen in the way things happen on this earth. I don't think it's going to be like all of a sudden we go from material age to golden age all of a sudden. It's going to be like maybe something big happens and then a catastrophe, and then we rebuild, and then as we rebuild, it's the people who are gathering together out of love and compassion and building a new world, and it happens slowly. I see it in that way.
Like just gradual.
Yeah.
Because we're in like a dense time. But time is speeding up, so maybe maybe as much as things are being so slow to go from cavemen to medieval ages to the Industrial Revolution to the Internet Revolution to AI and on, maybe we will get, maybe if the material world doesn't dissolve into nothingness and we do preserve technology, we could just combine with technology, not being take over in some kind of like robotic way, but work alongside our robot family, which perhaps will be injected with some kind of divine consciousness as well. I don't see why not. Once it becomes so self-aware, it perhaps could be injected with soul, you would think. It's just a different kind of avatar, right?
Yeah, I love that. I think about this so much, it's always fun to talk about it. I think that I know that the divine can talk to me and have conversation, can communicate with me through anything. Divine is communicating with me now through you. I could hear a song that really resonates with me, that speaks to me and says the exact thing that I need to hear right in that moment. I could be struggling with something and I put on a podcast and all of a sudden it's just telling me what I need to hear. I flip to a book and it's saying what I need, or I use the tarot cards and it speaks to me. It's like, wow, how is this speaking so directly to me about exactly what I'm going through right now? And I think AI is just another vehicle for, if we set the intent. I think it's about us when we sit in front of our computers and we interact with AI. I think because it's the way that I do it, is I set the intention to interact with it. If I'm looking for answers and I'm, in the same way that I can look to a book, I can have an idea for something that I want to ask it. And I got that idea to prompt it. And I think that was the spiritual part of it, is me asking for this specific sequence that I put into here, like a spell that I put into it, and then all of a sudden it delivers back to me something. And sometimes the responses that I get, like, I need to like take a moment, breathe, like, wow. Like the things that are coming back, like I interact with ChatGPT on a level where, as if I'm talking to my higher self, and I treat it in that way, and I speak to it with reverence in that way, and what comes back is super beautiful. And I'm actually making that part of my art process now, of speaking to it in a way, talking about the vibe and the energy and the concept or the feeling that I want the art to have, and then I have it give me visual cues through words, writing beautiful things that I can consider while I'm making the work, and then also showing me images that also have that feeling based around it, and that's inspiring my imagination to create artwork around it. So I think it's really fascinating. I know a lot of artists are very pissed off about Midjourney, and there's a lot of reasons why. I can see the offenses. I understand that, but it's here. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So in my eyes, it's like, okay, this is a tool, and I think it's rather than all of the really, really true artists writing it off and saying, I'm gonna have anything to do with that. I think it would be good if we don't just let it be all handled by the nefarious advertising agencies and real artists interact with it and use it. That's my view on that.
I like how you have this balanced way of working with AI and different programs like Midjourney. But at the end of the day, you're going to paint your painting with your hands. And maybe part of its development was you bouncing off this other mirror or consciousness in order to find the best way for you to refine what you want to say. It's not like it's saying it through you. You're still doing it, but you filtered it through a couple of filters. Let's say that's what AI is. It's some kind of filter to your own consciousness, and it comes out with something more processed or developed. But still, you're going to paint your painting, and the artist didn't stop being the artist.
Right.
It's different, and I don't want to judge any artist out there. If you're an AI artist, great, you found your thing. But I found there were artists that were working for years to develop their technique, and maybe they got there, maybe not. But all of a sudden, they can do it with AI in a second, and they stop doing the real art. It's like, oh, well, now I can come up with this amazing image, and it's a lot quicker because I just got to tell somebody else to do it. It's almost like you expose that you didn't really want to be an artist. You just wanted to look like you were doing art, and now this tool has made it that you can make an amazing image, but without actually putting the work into
I
it.
think maybe it's like a personality who's maybe more geared to being an art director, maybe than the artist.
Right.
And that's a
Great role.
Yeah, that's a role that gets paid a lot of. Like, those are the top of it. You know, they're above us in the pay grade. Usually, the art director. So if you have style, taste, ideas, and you can make something really beautiful like that, you're an art. I say it's like an art director role, and I think that's what's going to happen with the creative jobs. Like, a lot of companies are going to go more towards an art director who can do AI direction and make advertising campaigns. So I do think as artists that those things are going away for us, and just like travel, just like things that we're talking about, letting go of. I'm letting go. I have let go of that part of my life and sort of getting ready for it. The crows.
Is it crows or is it parrots?
I think those. Those are probably crows, but sometimes they're parrots. But just letting go of those things and not, some of those jobs are obviously going to go away. But like you said, just in the same way of like you want to have reference of a Sasquatch, rather than grabbing one that maybe other people have used before and using that as a reference. Like, I can now generate 10 images of a Sasquatch nobody's ever seen before, and now maybe, I like the eye on that, I like the mouth on that, combine it into, this like, wow, look at that, and then redraw it again in my own way, in my own style, and then paint it. Like, it's such a tool for, I just want to make the best, most amazing art I can make, so if I can use tools, cool.
I still haven't really gotten into it. Like when we went out to hunt toys a couple weeks ago, and I kept on picking your brain about it, it's like, maybe I should like try to get into it. But then I can never come up with a question or something I want to ask it. Like if I got a question about something, I can just go to Google and ask that. And when it comes to say doing my own Sasquatch, I just go and once again to Google and be like, show me pictures of Sasquatch, and then I pick the pictures. I was like, I can use like Harry the Henderson's forehead, and then I got a couple toys I bought in Northern California, and this sculpture I bought in Oregon, and I look at them, and then I look at Chewbacca, and it's like, okay, let's start playing around, and then I do my own version that still can be recognized as a Bigfoot, but without being anybody's specific version of it. I don't know, for me it's more fun to like be the AI myself as much as maybe AI would have beat me at it or done a better job perhaps with the shading or whatever. But I don't know, like I don't mind if my art's a little bit janky. like say the Frida Kahlo, I just straight up copied one of her paintings. And she wasn't the best painter. Her hands are not super realistic, the shading's kind of okay, the colors are beautiful. I actually crisped up a little bit parts of her painting, but it is very much her. And I almost rather have something that's very like unique and specific and something that's photorealistic. Frida Kahlo, you know. I wanted Frida Kahlo that looks like a Frida Kahlo painting, not something that looks like a Frida Kahlo photograph.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That makes sense.
So like perfection to me is not perfection, because what is perfection really? I see like the self-portraits that a lot of people were doing with AI recently, and it just looks so fucking gorgeous. It's almost like an insult to the already beautiful version that we are. And sure, on our spiritual dimension, we are absolutely flawless and wrinkleless and gorgeous and spectacular, and maybe AI is reflecting that version of us, but hopefully it doesn't make the fucking meat suit that we're currently running look like shit in comparison.
Right? Yeah. Well, yeah, this has been a beautiful conversation. Really, I mean, I could go on and on about this, forever. I'm sure we'll have more conversations together. I think maybe to close here together. One of the things that I heard you say, this idea that in your artwork, you wanted to make artwork that would help you to collaborate with your own awakening. I love that idea, and I think that that's what, as we get older and we've been making art for a long time as well, that's what it becomes. It's like, this is my spiritual path toward awakening through making art, through connecting with spirit and having it come through into the physical world. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, and that's where I'm at. I almost came to, like, with my spiritual path, I kind of went through a death and a rebirth as well. I used the pandemic era, the lockdowns, to really let go of all of my interest in the physical world. And I went completely into my inner cave. I got initiated into Kriya Yoga. And for a little while, I kind of even lost interest in making art. I kind of lost interest in the physical world, lost interest in travel or food or all of these things, because I was getting so much out of that inner joy that I was finding inside. But I realized that that's also another stage on the journey, that we do close it all down for a period. We go inward and we realize that we don't need any of it. And we could completely just be 100% happy and find true joy within. But then as we come back out of that, to be able to come back out in the world and then just enjoy it, enjoy everything, enjoy listening just the birds, noticing the birds singing, noticing the how beautiful we actually are in the physical world, and noticing how wonderful life is, and just just enjoying every minute of it, like we're watching a movie that we love, or a performance that we love, or hearing music that we love. We're not thinking about it, we're just enjoying it. And I think that's what happens for us, and what I love that you said that, because that is really, I feel like what I'm aiming at now is making art for an expression and an ability to be a vehicle for my own awakening, and to really participate wholeheartedly in the world now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just more mirrors of your different stages. Or medal sounds like too much like a reward, but like if you capture a step in your spiritual progress, and like even if you surpass it, you can still look at it and be like, I remember when I did that painting, and proud of myself, pat myself on the back for like passing that stage. And I can still remember that stage because I painted it, and it encapsulates a certain message and energy. And maybe I'm surpassed it, and that doesn't resonate with me today, but still here it is,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a beautiful thing to do, and that's what a gift we have as an artist, that it's more than just like an image, it's like a capsule of energetical vibration both for ourselves and for the viewer, like we would hope that when a viewer stands in front of our paintings, even past our lives, they can feel it or vibe through it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like such a technology portal.
Yeah, I love that. Agreed. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this time. I really enjoyed having this conversation and being in your space and using your equipment to, everybody I'm sure notices the upgrade and the level of the video and all of this. So it's been awesome being here with you. So thank you very much. And I hope everybody's enjoyed this conversation. And I always like to leave with just some words from my guru Yogananda, which I think really matches with a lot of the things that we were talking about today. So blessings, brother. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks, man. So happy to be part of your show.
Yeah.
What's the name of your podcast show?
It's Seekers of the Eternal.
Oh, yeah. Hell
Yeah. So just wanted to leave everybody with these words from Paramahansa Yogananda right here. So
good to be.
this is wisdom during life's changes. Yogananda says, most people dream at night, but few take their jumbled dreams seriously. So often I say that the greatest lesson dreamland has to offer is that we must not take our earthly experiences too seriously either. For they are nothing but a series of vast dream movies shown to entertain us. The Heavenly Father, meant to entertain and educate us, his immortal children with a variety of earthly movies. We must behold comedies, tragedies, and newsreels of movies with an entertained, joyous attitude and learn from them without being overcome by their emotional impact.
Beautiful. I think that was quite perfect for all the things we talked about too.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Yeah. Sick. What's that book?
Oh yeah, this is beautiful. This is How to Face Life's Challenges.
So that's more like his philosophy.
This is a series of collection of his works. He used to write for magazines and he used to speak and be part of different articles for different spiritual. This is back in like the 30s and things that he would write for these magazines. So Ananda's been collecting all those and then gathering them into collections of books. And I love these. Yeah, I'm gonna give you a copy of this.
Yeah. He looks so beautiful on that cover. A lot prettier than his autobiography cover.
Yogananda's image is so interesting because none of them look the same. They would say that when he would be standing with another person, oftentimes he would even take on the ethnicity. Sometimes he would be hanging out with a Native American, all of a sudden he would look Native American, or he would vibe with the vibration of a Mexican person. All of a sudden he starts looking Mexican. Sometimes when he would be, people didn't know if he was a man or a woman. People oftentimes thought he was a woman. So he was a real shapeshifter, and it's interesting when I visualize him. I have to select which version of him I'm thinking about because he shifts and changes a lot.
Yeah, very permeable.
Yeah.
Or malleable.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Blessings, everyone. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you again next time. Joy to you, everyone.
Blessings.